I appreciate you spending a few moments with me to examine a discussion board strategy which I use and you might want to consider. I will discuss the strategy and value of preparing a voluntary open discussion as an addition to the obligatory required discussions using great nonfiction books with real-life scenarios. Offering voluntary discussions aligned with student learning can add interest and relevance to the forums. There's always a moment of intensity and anticipation when I log into my classroom on any given day. I'm ready to connect with students and read what they produced that's indicative of learning and growth. I've never felt otherwise in the 10 years I've been with Ashford. If one is an educator, there's a draw to learning and teaching that can't be dismissed. As illustrated by this cartoon, I often learn more from my students than they do from me. In Canvas, we have a variety of places to interact with students. Ask your instructor, the inbox, replies to announcements, and comments submitted to our gradebook feedback. I'm motivated to have all of these opportunities where I can interact. However, discussion forums remain the beating heart of the classroom. Discussions are akin to conversation in an on-site class and are what we use at the present to assess learning aligned with course objectives. They are necessary, they are both formative and summative, and they are the primary means of interaction. They are required to display the formality of college writing. Students and instructors both want the discussion forums to have vitality. We want to be drawn there as places where thought is stimulated, we engage with others, and we mull over interesting issues relating to our study and our lives. So wanting to create places like this, we ask ourselves, how might we mention and create a draw that brings students to the forum? Something that motivates them not only to develop and post the expected discussion with all the bells and whistles required, but also provides a more informal, thought-provoking, real-life engagement related to the subject matter, but without the need for word counts, perfect grammar, resources, APA, or assessment. In other words, a conversation that might take place in an on-site setting. Students have the opportunity to become learners rather than grade getters. It's critical that the attraction of engaging in such a conversation come from alignment with the subject focus of the class and have a real-life application of content. The topic of the conversation also needs authority and credibility. As one of a number of methods we could use to spice up a discussion forum, I'd like to propose you take a look at the New York Times bestseller list or other bestseller lists, such as Publishers Weekly, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, USA Today, or the LA Times. The New York Times also features an Inside the List site, which editors use to highlight particular titles from the bestseller list and provide insights into particular authors and their work. They also point out the arrivals and departures of books from the list and note interesting trends. Find a book that appeals to you and has a relationship to your class subject matter, and gift yourself something you may not have had for a while, time to read. Stories have a way of drawing us in and speaking to us. Our metacognition is kicked into gear and higher level thinking is inevitable. Examples of bestsellers I have read in whole or in part this past year include The Zappos Experience by Joseph McCallie, Our Iceberg is Melting by John Cotter, How to Be a Great Boss by Gino Wickman and Renee Bohr, The Desire Map by Daniel Laporte, The Industries of the Future by Alec Ross, and The Upstarts by Brad Stone. All of these nonfiction bestsellers are stimulating, inspiring, and real. They have chapters and sections that speak to concepts and analysis we want students to know and think about in relation to the studies in which they are engaged. As you're enjoying your reading, consider how you could incorporate some of the stories and experiences to target the real-life application of new knowledge in your class. Have fun creating and producing inquiry that aligns with discussion topics and post it as a point of view, a think about it, a consider this, open chat, and then watch the students pour in. Engage and motivate the modern learner by giving them an independent and critical thinking voice. According to Gary Zucka in Classroom Course Model, a different model needed for adult online students, changing the role of students into active participants in learning points students in a general direction and assist them in constructing knowledge in new and useful ways. Philip Stott states in the British Journal of Educational Technology that the perils of a lack of student engagement are higher dropout rates for online courses than for face-to-face courses. The Center for Teaching and Learning at the University of Oregon suggests you should engage in the boards by initiating posts in ways that advance the conversation. You might post an opinion based on reading research, provide resources related to the subject material, and post thought-provoking questions aligned with the topic. The more students feel connected to one another and to you, the richer and more productive the discussions will be. In our own Ashford Library webinar given on June 9th, 2017, it was noted that getting students interested in something other than the required assignments is a way to enhance the teaching experience. Rob Kelly, Writing in Faculty Focus, describes Jennifer Luzar's compilation of the 5 things students want in their online courses, including fun and interesting discussion formats. Students love to think differently and extend their thoughts, Luzar notes. Including an open invitation to talk about a real-life issue tied to the course concepts intrinsically motivates students to contribute, improves depth of thinking, broadens understanding, gives a dose of reality, and illustrates how others connect with life. Perspective is enriched and stories touch the emotional core of people, increasing their interest in getting involved and improving receptiveness to ideas and learning. Let's take a look at how I've used bestsellers in the classroom. In Gen 102, Digital Literacy for Life in the Workplace, 2 of the course learning objectives are to examine societal changes brought about by digital technology and discuss ethical issues relevant in a digital society. One of the discussions is titled The Digital Revolution, for which students describe several significant technological advances they have witnessed and present several futuristic ideas found on popular websites. The New York Times bestseller, The Industries of the Future by Alec Ross, contains many eye-opening chapters, suggesting the future look of a technological society. I chose a section from the chapter on Here Come the Robots and created a discussion. I want students to know this is entirely voluntary and not required, which I discovered needed to be more explicit than I originally thought. So later I added a discussion just for fun to the point of view caption the second time I used this, and I picked up more responses. I began with a paragraph about how important it is to read and include an image of the book I am using. I follow this with the concept being explored. In this case, Ross's first chapter is about robots, not the robots of comic books and sci-fi movies, but real purposeful robots developed to help people and maybe save the world. I then present the real-life story that I want students to assimilate, which in this scenario is the use of caregiver robots for elder patients who wish to stay in their homes and or to supplement scarce human help in assisted living centers or nursing homes as the number of residents increase. Include an image that illustrates the concept and ask probing questions such as, will the elderly allow robots to assist with caregiving tasks? And will those who are not wealthy enough to afford robot care be forgotten? And how will emotional needs play out with caregiver robots? Following with a related video is a great way to wrap up the discussion and pull more students in who may not have wanted to read the story before deciding whether to respond. I plan on using the Canvas video feature to replace some of the description in the future. The student conversations begin with Corin responding to several of the questions and ending her thoughts with, "Would I leave my parents in the care of caregiver robots?" This is the question that motivates most of the student conversation that follows. It's very personal and real to our adult students, and they want to consider this possibility and express themselves. They want to share their voice with other students. Daniel Goleman's research in his book, Emotional Intelligence, shows that the cognitive can't be separated from the emotive. Emotions play a large role in performance and attitude. Another example of an open conversation about the future of technology comes from the same book, The Industries of the Future by Alec Ross. The title of the point of view discussion is Mapping Genomes to Control Potential Diseases. With the ability to sequence our DNA, parents will know in the womb the risk a baby brings with him at birth. The benefit will be to control potential diseases before they seriously impact a person's life. But the unintended consequences of mapping genomes could be world-changing. Questions such as, will parents opt for designer babies with genetics that map to the parents' hopes? And will knowledge of predispositions affect the way a child is raised? Encourage students to think and write critically. There isn't a family that hasn't been touched by disease in some way. This conversation resonates with every student and addresses the course concepts. How does the content of the books pictured lend itself to Ashford courses? The Upstarts by Brad Stone is a bestseller with tales of how Uber, Airbnb, and the killer companies of the new Silicon Valley are changing the world. Stories that inquiring minds want to hear, particularly applicable in business classes. How to Be a Great Boss by Gino Wickman and Renee Bohr can speak to entrepreneurs and those on the rise in management in our classes. Our Iceberg is Melting by John Cotter of the Harvard Business School talks about changing and succeeding under any conditions, a story especially relevant to the historical and political world we inhabit. The Zappos Experience by Joseph McKelly has marketing and human resourcing stories which delight and inspire audiences of readers and are particularly relevant to the generations we teach. The Desire Map by Daniel Laporte is Creating Goals with Soul. We talk extensively about goals in many of our courses, and this book relates stories of how all of us can forge aspirations and lofty objectives. Laporte suggests that we first get clear on how we actually want to feel in our life, and then we set our intentions and formulate our goals, instead of formulating goals and then hoping and praying that we'll feel great when we get there. All of these bestsellers have something valuable to say, and we can use them with similar conceptual discussions to stir interest and engagement. One of the student comments in the EOCS report expressed appreciation for the open discussion. I absolutely loved how Dr. Lauer added her own mini discussion in the other discussions. It kept class engaging and was a nice break from the regular grind of class. Taking Daniel Laporte's book, The Desire Map, and diving into it a bit more will give you a sense of using bestseller content to enhance a curricular focus in any class, but in this case, the entry point classes, where goals are frequently addressed. Identify the activities in your classes where there are concepts that can be enhanced with real ideas and reflections from a bestseller or any other book you're enjoying. In student success orientation, Dr. Newton Miller asked students in his video, how do you get to your goals? And offers personal experience and tips. In EXP 105, the worksheet for discussion number 1 asks students to explain their purpose and motivation for being in college. And the week 4 journal brings in goals with a reflection on self-regulation of personal behaviors. The week 5 discussion requires commentary on student career goals using their learning patterns. And in Gen 102, we talk about career goals, financial goals, technology goals, and how digital literacy will help students reach all these goals. In other words, there is plenty of opportunity for instructors to talk with students about goals and prepare discussions that are vibrant and meaningful. The report says you shouldn't be chasing a goal. You should be chasing the feeling that reaching the goal will give you. Whether it's improving leadership skills or becoming a manager or gaining knowledge of time management practices or learning technology, what core feeling do we want to have at the end of our quest? Laporte's premise is that we're going about achieving goals upside down. We go after what we think we want and we hope we'll feel great when we get there, but it's burning us out. We should decide how we want to feel, connect that feeling to a goal, and extreme motivation will take over and get us there. Inner clarity drives action. Develop an open discussion that invites students to offer their thoughts on using this different approach to goal setting as espoused by Laporte. You could ask, are emotions every bit as important as reasoned thought in creating goals that we and our students hope to accomplish? A bestsellers discussion could easily be facilitated in an announcement also, as we now have student reply capability in Canvas, and I intend to try that. My concern is that students aren't always motivated to read the announcements, whereas they must enter the discussion forum. Another possible location for facilitating an open discussion about a book-related concept tied to course study would be social media. As we consider incorporating and leveraging the attraction of social media into our classrooms, a Facebook group of students specific to the particular class you are teaching could be formed for discussions and collaboration that would facilitate a strong sense of community and encourage collective ideas. According to Chan and Cryer, in investigating instructional strategies for using social media in formal and informal learning, it is believed that social media is the extended classroom for students where they can learn from real-life events and professionals in the field. A number of my students have inquired about setting up a Facebook group for a class, as the access is easy and convenient, and Facebook is always on for them. As we continuously search for strategies to make discussions relevant and compelling in order to attract student enthusiasm, dialogue, and reflection, consider using bestsellers to elevate forums beyond conventional responses. Provide a catalyst for more engaging instructor involvement and student excitement for talking with each other. A few of the nonfiction bestsellers of 2017, which contain stories and wisdom applicable to our students, are Beyond the Messy Truth, How We Came Apart, How We Come Together by Van Jones, How to Control What Will Happen to You in the Future by Vanessa Porter, Grit by Angela Duckworth, Braving the Wilderness, The Quest for True Belonging and the Courage to Stand Alone by Brene Brown, The Top Trends That Will Reshape the World in the Next 20 Years by James Canton, and Courage is Contagious. I'm sorry, this is a slide that goes along with what I'm saying. And Courage is Contagious by Nick Haramis. Beyond the Messy Truth by Van Jones offers an achievable pathway to harmony and how to bring opposing sides together. How to Control What Will Happen to You in the Future gives answers to the questions of how to stop bad things happening to you, what to do when life makes you feel defeated, and the rules of the universe you need to live your life by. Angela Duckworth shows those striving to succeed that the secret to outstanding achievement is not talent, but a special blend of passion and persistence she calls grit. Braving the Wilderness explains that it is inevitable that we will fall and we will fail. We have a choice whether to get up or not. Brown empowers us each to be a little more courageous. Canton, in The Top Trends, talks about the changes he believes will shape the upcoming decades with the goal of convincing Americans to take a more active role in envisioning and safeguarding the 21st century. And Nick Haramis, in Courage is Contagious, highlights our common goals and dreams with a diversity of voices showing fortitude, humility, and compassion. So, Bill Gates and I leave you with a challenge. Buy a book, enjoy the read, share it with your students, and open the door to a spirited conversation. Thank you for your attention and your interest and for being with us. We have a few minutes left, so open the chat box and invite questions or comments. If anyone would wish to share a book you've read that contains conceptual features that could be used in your courses as discussion topics, please do. And please do not hesitate to contact me with any further information or questions you would like to share. And enjoy the rest of the conference.